There is nothing of greater value than integrity for man. Nothing. Our ancestors laid life for that. They literally laid life. And I respect the time when men were men, when integrity meant something as valuable as life force. And we live in time of corruption, cowardness, malice. No, we don't anymore. So, and that can only be when your heart is soft, when there's this sensitivity.
There's a few things I want to say about my process and how it's been for me the past 2 months. Because I feel like part of my psyche kind of hijacked the spiritual warrior thing. Yeah, I feel like I could not relax at all. I was trying to, and I've observed this before in my life, this needing to prove myself and fulfill some kind of image or attain something. And I feel like that part of me hijacked this answer that I got from you. So I wonder if that will become more clear also with the discourses about when that settles in, you know, when the Maya settles in, and what that has to do with understanding and the realization of our essence and then manifestation and creation. So I notice more and more how this is really a bodily affair. You know, I feel the movements coming more, and the energy is finding its way. So I'm very grateful for that, because I feel already that it's such a big release happening. Yeah, and you know, I've had a lot of tension these last 2 months because of what I said. In the body, in my face, in my jaws, in everywhere really. But I've also had a specific tension that has been here. Not per se a tension, maybe more like a like energy pulsating, and it's been there for a few years now, actually. And I wonder how that relates to the process. If that is also related to the other tension that I'm feeling, because I've also had periods with not much tension, but still that energetic movement happening there. And you know, I've done the Kundalini course now, and you know, it's at that at reaching the Kundalini, reaching a certain point, there comes this feeling or this experience of that stabilizing of the witness, and yeah, I wonder how that all fits together. Yeah, I know that, the ahamkara is still pretty wacky, but it's much better than a few years ago. And I think that's also what you meant with forging myself out of myself, that I think this work really does require that that foundation of, yeah, also understanding yourself as a human, as a person, and the personality. So I'm not really sure what my question is. Just that I feel like the understanding has been wrong, or not per se wrong, but yeah, I couldn't really find peace with all these puzzle pieces yet. Yeah. So, yeah.
So there are different strands, right? And you just wondering how it all fits together. Well, look, what you've shared, like all these different strands, and of course, I'm not kind of trying to avoid answering or avoid reflecting back or giving a feedback to what you have shared. But all this, what you brought here as different strands, effectively speaking, points out to life needs to be lived. See? So one way or another, life needs to be lived, but the reality is that life is all there is. It lives itself. You see? So just let me just say a few more things to that, and then you're welcome to. This is actually could be because it one way or another linked to what we would touch upon in this immersion after we kind of gave that overview that we now got into. I'm talking about the tattvas. The question of identity. So maybe running ahead of ourselves a little bit with picking up that theme further in the coming days. In response to what you have shared, this one way or another boils down to this. And identities along with boundaries all goes together. So this sense of identity and the need as well as the way how that works, how in order for anything to do there, express oneself, recognize something, acknowledge something, this principle is in motion. Why do we feel pain of some other people, for example? How can we feel someone's discomfort if not by identifying? So identity here is a double-edged sword. Identity here is that what at once binds us, but identity also here, that in itself, as an activity, in consciousness is what actually connects us. You hear?
To each other.
To each other, to everything. In order to see anything, recognize anything, that identity is required. Identifying with something. When we identify with something, we are capable of expressing the deeper dimension of our being, even if we speak about it just in this plane of human to human interactions, or human interactions within the animal kingdom, within the nature. So these boundaries, you see, these boundaries is what makes that what is a learning process. Because by virtue of how it works, consciousness is always eager to break the boundaries. Whatever these boundaries are, whatever feels as boundaries, immediately we want to go beyond them. And as soon as we go beyond the boundaries need to be recreated. So this kind of fluctuation, you see, it bounds itself out of its own accord. And it wants to forgo the boundaries. See? We may see this in a way of how that movement here maybe is the only way to know what it feels like to go beyond certain boundaries unless there are boundaries in the first place. I don't know, maybe. But this also linked to this principle, right, this aspect represented by the principle of individuality, this ahamkara, this sense of what we identify with is then becomes the boundaries of our ahamkara. So our ahamkara is not as easily defined or definable in a sense of just, let's say, some parameters protruding outward from the skin. Whatever that is, maybe a couple of inches, maybe much more, like depending. That's not what defines our ahamkara. This is, let's say, ahamkara at that level of real kind of most primitive function, although it's very sophisticated. But we know very well whatever we identify with is incorporated into the notion of our identity. Right? Like my kin, my family, my blood, my line, right? And my nation, my history, whatever is shared, then incorporated into that. I'm bringing this simply as reminders how this informs us from behind the scene, and that also goes into that sense of identity. So, breaking the boundaries is always at the cost, at the price. Because breaking the boundaries is breaking something which actually so far held everything together. It has this kind of like, yeah, that's what I know. I don't know what's beyond the boundaries, right? Maybe, yeah, I've heard it's great. The Plato cave, right? You know that analogy? Plato's cave. I haven't seen it. I hear, yeah, come out. This is the real deal, We're not meant to sit in the cave and watch the shadows on the wall or hear the sounds of life passing by. But the familiarity, of course, You see? Of that bird sitting on the edge of an open cage. And so there's a lot more to ahamkara than just, let's say, holds, let's say, undesirable, some examples, undesirable situations where there are some kind of recesses in the auric field, some invasions, you see? All this, we could speak about that independently, separately. But what I feel that you bringing out is this, what I kind of feel, sense it, almost like oh, do you want me to set you free? Oh, I can set you free now. I'll just say a few things and you'll be free. Would that do, Bart? What do you prefer? I shouldn't even call you by your name because it doesn't make any sense. If I set you free, you should be free of your name too. It's tongue-in-cheek. I just forgot to put tongue into my cheek. Because, you see, what you're asking is not about like, in non-dual satsang, it's very simple. People sit like that and then go straight into the nature of consciousness, and the teacher then can give the highest truth and everyone happy in the room. You bring all the mess now, man. Right? And that's why I'm grateful for your honesty, because you speak to that which has no answer. You're asking question which cannot be answered. You will never receive answer. You know why? The only way to get answers to this bundle of questions is to live life. And I somehow could be wrong, but that little time that I have seen you in, since you came, just barely in spring, right? In Vienna. It was your first time in Vienna, right? I have the feeling that you're okay. You're doing fine. And more than that. I just have that feeling, like, how old are you? Don't worry about that question. 25. 25? Man, at 25 asking these questions, you could be in a much more mess if you ask me. So let me tell you this, okay? You are nearly 10 years younger than my second daughter. So I could speak from that. Not quite like a granddad yet, getting there, but not quite. So when I look at you and, this is why I kind of squaring this, you see, this is where the truth is found, and it is then your own truth, not borrowed, not given some ready-made answer. You see? It is lived. It is first-hand. First-hand. So, and somehow you're asking about this, right? The most important question that to me personally is that sensitivity to which you speak and which I can sense. And it doesn't need a psyche to sense here. It's written all over your face, man. Okay? Which is a compliment. Take it as a compliment. Sometimes I do compliments in an awkward way, for which I am often being banished in a family, in my own house. But, I'm learning to be more subtle. So, this is meant to be as a compliment. This is your duty to preserve. Until you are here, as gray as I am. So that sensitivity is there, not hardened. Okay, and that's what I meant. Spiritual warrior. See? Spiritual warrior has his heart cooked. It's cooked. You put the toothpick and it goes through. It's soft. But he's as tough as a nail. Tough. And what his toughness is? That toughness is the verticality of his spirit, because he lives from that dimension. Always, always up to the light. Look me in the eyes, Bart. Look at me, man. This, okay? So we're simply picking up where we left it. This is a rite of passage. When my son is old enough, I wish I would be able to say the same thing to him. I hope I will be there still to do that. A lot of talks about divine masculine. Guys pretend to be tough. Pussies. Sorry, didn't mean to offend the most refined part of the universe. Okay. I said no offense, for fuck's sake. It's like you're getting me now. That's not toughness. Pretends. You see? But life won't be easy. But if you're fully prepared and clear in your compass and that internal alignment, you see? There is nothing of greater value than integrity for man. Nothing. Our ancestors laid life for that. They literally laid life. And I respect the time when men were men, when integrity meant something as valuable as life force. And we live in time of corruption, cowardness, malice. No. We don't anymore. So, and that can only be when your heart is soft, when there's this sensitivity. But you can't wear that sensitivity on your sleeve. You know that expression? You can't just make it into, Doesn't mean that you have to appear tough. No. The balance here is in that. You see, you always recenter yourself. You go straight to the core. And the core of your masculinity is always spirit. The core of your masculinity. Just as when we sat together like this some time ago, right? In Poland, was it? Right? The strength of a man is in the heart. That's where the man is lying. Doesn't matter what his body is like. He's a lion in the heart. And then you are smart enough, intuitive enough. I mean, this is gonna sound now like, wanting a pat on my shoulder or something like, you find yourself into this work. That's not a dumb choice. I mean, would you say so? No, not a dumb choice, right? At 25, could be kicking a lot of other balls. So, I think you're good, man, as far as I'm concerned. The rest, nobody's going to answer your questions for you. You'd have to figure them out. Some tweaks here, there, some practical. And remember that this going back to the Ahamkara, is by principle of emulation. Emulation, okay? So first you emulate Shiva, you emulate the highest. That's what you identify. What you contemplate, you become. This is the principle, rule of thumb. What we contemplate, we become. Notice what we spend our time on, what we contemplate. We become that. Just as Shiva contemplated something else and become us. This is in reverse. Then, bringing the concession in, emulate great examples. You know, there should be role models in life. There should be some examples where you look at, you gain strength, you gain reassurance, you're getting confirmation. So it's not all nothing, not for nothing. These examples should be there. That's what I mean, emulating. Because this is by virtue of identity. You see? You partake in the qualities of those you like. It's very important when we choose this out of people who are alive or have been alive. Very important choice. Lest we forget that would mold us from within. And then you live in a natural manner. Okay? You just live and let life live through you, as it will do anyway, regardless.